We close today's broadcast from Phoenix. We have just learned the tragic news involving the death of Dale Earnhardt during today's running of the Daytona 500. Now, RPM tonight is coming up next. The staff in Daytona will have complete details. From all of us here in Phoenix, our deepest sympathies to the Earnhardt family. Good night, everyone.
NASCAR's Super Bowl was rocked on Sunday with the loss of one of its greatest champions. While Michael Waltrip rode to an emotional victory at the season-opening Daytona 500, Dale Earnhardt, his employer, his friend, a 7-time Winston Cup champion, is dead at the age of 49. Welcome, race fans. Thank you for joining us on RPM tonight. I'm Whit Watson. It should have been a joyous day in stock car racing. Opening day for the 2001 Winston Cup season. The sport's crown jewel, the Daytona 500. Instead, we mourn the passing of a 7-time Winston Cup champion and one of racing's most unique personalities. Dale Earnhardt was running third on Sunday behind his son, Dale Jr., and the man he hired to drive for him this year, race winner Michael Waltrip. They came to the final lap. Earnhardt hit the wall and was caught up with Ken Schrader, had to be cut out of his car, a process that took 5 to 10 minutes, and a tarp was drawn to cover the wreckage. He was taken to Halifax Medical Center in Daytona. A doctor on site there said that Earnhardt was unconscious and unresponsive and never showed any signs of life. An autopsy will determine the exact cause of death, but the doctor speculated that it was a head injury to the base of the skull. Mike Massaro is covering Speed Weeks for us, and again, what should have been a joyous day for Michael Waltrip has turned tragic. Not only did Waltrip drive for Dale Earnhardt, the two were very close friends. Mike, a very difficult time right now for NASCAR.
And I think that may be actually an understatement. The mood is extremely somber here in Daytona, and it was a wild mood swing in victory lane. It went from total elation to total devastation. Right now at Daytona, if you look behind me at International Speedway Boulevard, now normally after the Daytona 500, horns are blowing, people are yelling, people are partying, people are having a very good time. Right now, you could practically hear a pin drop. It's that quiet.
The impact of the loss, perhaps it's too early to really state what it means to not have Dale Earnhardt as part of the Winston Cup Series. But if you could, speak to the impact and also the irony involved here.
Well, Whit, it's such a dramatic impact. Dale Earnhardt, if you will, and I don't think I'm overstating this at all, is NASCAR's equivalent to, say, Michael Jordan or, say, Mark McGwire in baseball. He had that much effect on this sport. He had 7 championships. He was 6th on the all-time win list with 76 victories. People simply came to the racetrack to either root for him or root against him. But no matter what you say about Dale Earnhardt, he was all about winning. He was an ambassador for this sport, and people really enjoyed having him around. There's no doubt that NASCAR can go on without him. They've lost champions in the past. Alan Kulwicki, Davey Allison both lost their lives after winning Winston Cup Series championships, but this sport will certainly be different next week at Rockingham.
At this point, we don't know the full extent of the injuries that caused the death of Dale Earnhardt, but surely it is not too early to start asking questions about safety issues in stock car racing. This has come up before, some of the deaths of drivers in years past that you touched on. Was there any mention made of, for example, the Hans device or any of the other safety precautions that perhaps could be taken in stock car racing?
Well, Whit, this was the 4th death on a racetrack in NASCAR in the last 12 months. Safety on the top of everybody's mind. The Hans device did come up in questioning of Dr. Steve Bohannon. He speculated, however, that it may not have made a difference. However, it just seems ironic. I had the chance to speak with Dale Earnhardt only 3 weeks ago in Las Vegas during a test about the Hans device because so many drivers are experimenting with it these days. And Dale Earnhardt's response was, he's not going to use it. He doesn't like it. He's uncomfortable with it. And that's pretty much the stance of most of the veterans here in NASCAR. The Hans device has, I believe, become mandatory in Formula One and in the kart series, and right now is only beginning to catch on in popularity.
Mike Massaro in Daytona, a very tough day for everybody. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Whit.
Dale Earnhardt had 676 career starts in his career, had the 6th most wins in Winston Cup history, the 1979 Rookie of the Year, and he backed it up with his first of 7 Winston Cup titles in 1980. He led over 25,000 laps in his career. Known as the Intimidator, but Dale Earnhardt had many friends in racing. The side we didn't see when he was on the racetrack endeared him to those closest to him. Dr. Jerry Punch is with us on the show. And Doctor, first of all, thank you very much for taking the time. I know how difficult this is because you're very close to the family. but if you could, try to put into words what the loss will mean to the racing world.
Well, I'm not sure you can. I'm having a hard time just finding the words right now because Dale Earnhardt is, it's hard to say was, but was one of my best friends for many, many years. You know, it's ironic that people talk about Dale Earnhardt and how selfish he was on the racetrack, how much he cared about himself on the racetrack because he was a winner and he wanted to win when he buckled that helmet on. But those of us who knew him knew that he was really a very, very unselfish individual off the racetrack. And the irony is that today, for the first time, that I can remember, and I've known this man a long, long time, you saw him be very, very unselfish in those final few laps. He had a car that could have made a move, in my opinion, following the sport for 20 years. He could have pulled up in front of Sterling Marlin, maybe Kenny Schrader, probably drafted by and won his second Daytona 500. But what he did in those final laps was what a father would do for a son. Ironically, that was his son right in front of him, Dale Earnhardt Jr., or what a brother would do for a brother. And Michael Waltrip was like the little brother that he didn't have. And he stayed there and ran 185 mile per hour screen as a pick, and he kept Sterling Marlin back there and Kenny Schrader and those guys who didn't get a chance to get up there and fight for the win, so that his two people in front of him, his son and one of his best friends, Michael Waltrip, who he had given a chance, did have a chance. And so it was very, very unselfish of Dale Earnhardt. And it's a move that many of us who've known him for years would understand. But it's very difficult now to understand because he's gone.
Now, Doctor, again, we want to stress that we do not have the full details of the injuries to Dale Earnhardt and what precisely caused his death. But in light of the recent stories regarding safety in NASCAR and in all forms of racing, there's been talk about the Hans device, which is now mandatory on ovals in kart, also mandatory in F1 racing. Do we now need to take, yet again, a closer look at issues of safety, protecting the drivers in stock car racing?
Well, I mean, in my opinion, NASCAR racing is the safest form of racing in all of sports, all of motorsports. There's nothing safer than those race cars and 1 3/4 roll bar tubing. We saw Jeffrey Bodine's horrific tumble at Daytona last year in the truck race. We saw a tumble for Tony Stewart today, an 18-car crash in the Daytona 500. The drivers walked away. Stewart was taken to the hospital and checked out, and basically is going to be okay. What you can't predict is what happened with Dale Earnhardt, what we saw happen with Neil Bonnet a few years ago, what happened with Ernie Irvin at Michigan back in 1994, the abrupt right-hand turn up into the wall and almost head-on collision, that deceleration. In my opinion, I mean, the Hans device is a great device, and it's very difficult to talk about safety devices when we're talking about the loss of someone that we all cared about so much. But I'm not so sure the Hans device or anything at that point in time would, even as safe as these cars are, would have made that much different with that kind of massive deceleration at 185 miles an hour, because typically you get a fracture involving in the head, and those are not survivable injuries. The injuries that are the accidents that look the worst, and people say it didn't look that bad, but the injuries that are the ones that are the survivable are the violent tumbles, because those are the ones where you dissipate enough injury and you may have a broken bone or two and a concussion, but these are the bad ones, the ones where you suddenly stop and veer directly into a wall.
Dr. Jerry Punch, again, I know it's been a very difficult day for you. Thank you very much for your time. Dale Earnhardt won his first Winston Cup championship in 1980 and 1994, tied the king with his 7th Winston Cup title, and no other driver has more than 3. Earnhardt's 7 titles came over a 14-year span. When we come back, the lighter side of the man in black, a personality remembered, a personality that you may not know.
The championship, I tell you, the 50th anniversary of NASCAR. Who would have believed I could win the Daytona 500 on the 50th anniversary of Daytona? Our 20th year here, we're going to win that championship. Heck with a popular driver. I'd rather be a champion.
Play the Pep Boys' 80th anniversary instant win game and win $80.
All 167,785 grandstand seats at Daytona International Speedway were sold out. It made for the largest crowd in the history of the track, and they got more than they bargained for on Sunday. A backstretch wreck took out 18 cars late in the race. Ward Burton, Tony Stewart, Bobby Labonte, Dale Jarrett, and Mark Martin among those involved. And then on the final lap, the accident that claimed the life of Dale Earnhardt. A very fast race until that point, and Michael Waltrip did win for the first time in 463 career Winston Cup starts. His previous best finish at this race, 5th in 1999. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was 2nd, Ricky Rudd 4th. Bill Elliott started on the pole and took his Dodge home 5th. Sterling Marlin, also in a Dodge, came around in 7th, one of the faster cars on the track Sunday. Stacy Compton 10th in a Dodge. Earnhardt was given credit for a 12th place finish. Ken Schrader 13th, Robert Presley a good showing in 14th. Winston Cup Series rookie Ron Hornaday 17th, just ahead of Elliott Sadler in a Ford. Many of the cars in the back of the pack not running or several laps down thanks to that huge wreck with about 40 laps to go. Jeff Burton 19th, Casey Atwood the rookie 20th, Dale Jarrett among those whose day was cut short by the first major accident. Mike Skinner led the 500 for several laps on Sunday. Johnny Benson, a victim of engine failure. Jeff Gordon also collected in the first accident. Steve Park, also a driver for Dale Earnhardt, finishing 31st. Jerry Nadeau with a top 10 start, but fell back with the first accident. Mark Martin also collected. Jason Leffler could not avoid it either. He finished 34th. Tony Stewart, you saw his name. He was taken to Halifax Medical Center, treated for a concussion and a shoulder injury. His teammate Bobby Labonte involved in the same mishap, the defending Winston Cup champion finishing in 40th. Jeff Purvis was the first to exit the race. 49 lead changes among 14 drivers. That's a staggering number. 3 cautions for 14 laps, and the average speed just under 162 miles per hour. A great champion has left us. More on the life and career of Dale Earnhardt when RPM continues.
They had other commitments and other careers.
So that's time.
He was born in Kannapolis, North Carolina in 1951. He lived there as an adult. He was born into racing, as were his children. A Rookie of the Year in 1979, a Winston Cup champion in 1980, and 6 times more. Mike Gleason has a look at the life and legacy of Dale Earnhardt.
Earnhardt finally is a champion of the Daytona 500.
The Intimidator. I remember my first year down at IROC in Daytona, and he was standing by one of the trucks, and he's got his glasses on, and he's got his arms crossed. He's just watching everybody walk by and stuff, and I went up and stood next to him, and oh, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm just looking at everybody.
Dale Earnhardt was born to stock car racing in Kannapolis, North Carolina in 1951. His father, Ralph, was the 1956 NASCAR Sportsman Division champion and a popular man in the Winston Cup garage. Ralph died in 1973 while working on his car. For Dale, racing wasn't a way of life. It was life.
That's all I ever knew. I never did play ball. I never did do anything much in school other than hurried and got home and seen what was going on with the race cars. And it was a unique childhood, and that's why I think the love of racing and my drive to race was so strong when I started is that's what I knew, that's what I grew up doing, and it's just it's like I knew how to do it. But when I sat down in a race car, it was just natural.
As natural as it was very unrefined. When he arrived on the Winston Cup circuit full-time in 1979, he ruffled more than a few feathers and bent his fair share of sheet metal.
Very, very crude, like a diamond in the rough. It's one of those deals where you see some of them coming and you say, if he makes it, he's going to be okay, but if he keeps driving like this, he ain't going to make it.
I got into Richard at Martinsville. I remember one race that I got into the side of Richard going in one, but I did it from about 10 cars back from where I started, and I passed like 5 or 6 cars getting in the corner to get to Richard Petty. And I didn't do it to get to Richard Petty, but just Richard was in the way when I got there.
He tolerated it. The owners tolerated the wrecks and all that stuff, and some of the drivers tolerated some of the stuff that he did at that time, and it all worked out.
I was listening when they were scolding me. Richard Petty, too, when he was scolding me about driving over the curb into the side of his race car.
He was listening, and he was learning. In 1980, Earnhardt became the first driver to win Rookie of the Year and the Winston Cup Championship in back-to-back seasons. After driving for Rod Osterlund and Bud Moore, Earnhardt signed on with former independent driver Richard Childress. The early going was rough, but a dynasty was in the making.
84 was a little bit of a tough year. 85 was even a tougher year. We blew up a lot of engines. I think we won a race or 2 both years, but Richard told me, he said, man, this is not really working out, and you're a champion. You know, you want to go do something else, feel free to. And I said, no, man, we'll stick this thing out. We had 85 was a tough year. We turned the corner in 86, won a championship, and then we just went from there up. It just was amazing.
From 1986 to 1994, Earnhardt and Childress won 6 championships in 48 races. They had the best pit crew. They won on short tracks, they won on speedways, and Earnhardt's ability to master the draft became legend. The result was a fan frenzy and marketing machine that the sport has never seen. He copyrighted his name and signature and turned souvenir sales into a standalone booming business. His career was like an all-comers meet, beating the likes of Yarborough and Petty, to Wallace and Elliott. Fans either loved him or hated him. There was no middle ground.
Dale Earnhardt came along when Richard Petty was going out. And we needed greatly a new superstar, and became a different kind of a hero than Richard Petty was. Became the Intimidator, the Man in Black, and sold a lot of tickets for us. We got a lot of TV ratings up there.
But the Intimidator's Achilles heel was Daytona. He had won there more than any driver in history, but never in the Daytona 500. In 1998, on the 20th try, the sport's biggest star finally took the sport's biggest prize.
Been here a lot. This is the greatest time I've ever had in Victory Lane right here. This is it.
The Earnhardt name has gone from the dirt tracks of North Carolina to the title of a multi-million-dollar racing corporation.
Win the championships and race against Petty and people that he raced against, and Yarborough and Pearson and these guys. It's pretty unique, pretty awesome thing. All I can remember or think about is that he would have enjoyed this so much as what we've accomplished and what we've done, and enjoyed the things I've done over time. And I'd like for him to have been along the whole ride. It would have been neat.
Dale Earnhardt leaves us with 76 career victories, good for 6th on the all-time list. He won races in 20 of his 22 full-time Winston Cup seasons, including a career-high 11 wins in his championship season of 1987. Still to come on RPM tonight, the lighter side of number 3, a side that many of us never got a chance to see.
So ESPN.com's taking all my business now.
Blues Panthers at 8 tomorrow on ESPN2.
Put the food down, walk away, nobody gets hurt. Let's get him! I got him!
Think you're tough enough to drive a Tacoma? Join the club. Introducing the double cab with over 5 feet of bed length.
You just can't mess with a man's salad. Word up.
Dale Earnhardt passed away at the track that he dominated. He won 12 Twin 125 races, 7 Busch races, 6 Bud shootouts, 6 IROC races, 2 Pepsi 400s, and 1 very memorable Daytona 500 3 years ago. No other driver has even come close to his dominance at Daytona. One of our former ESPN colleagues tells a great story about Dale Earnhardt. Last year, the Man in Black was being interviewed on a rather serious topic, something about happy hour speeds or his qualifying effort that weekend. And while the reporter was attempting to maintain a calm demeanor, Earnhardt was very subtly, out of camera range, stomping down hard on the reporter's foot. He had a mischievous side, something that few of us ever saw. And we celebrate that aspect of Dale Earnhardt with this look back, an interview he did with Kenny Mayne a couple of years ago after he finally won the Daytona 500.
The good news is you won. The bad news is they took your car away, right?
That's fine. They can have it. We'll build a brand new one. 31, this 31 race is better than all of them put together.
I want to say
better than all of them.
How about the SB2 engine? I just wanted to
awesome.
just to justify
that
my
Monte
position.
Carlo, that new brand new engine, come out with a brand new engine, come there and win the Daytona 500. That's what I've been needing all along.
But the broken push rod yesterday afternoon had to be a little concern.
It was a concern, Benny, but it was our fault that it broke. It was not the engine. It was our fault. We did something when we was pumping the engine. Spinny Clinton and the guys, they said, hey, we got a good engine. We got a good engine. They had a good engine. it's going to be in the museum for a year.
You had so many emotions in Victory Lane. I heard you talking about your dad, how special it was
so
for your
many.
dad, and T. Wayne Robertson you missed, and Neil Bonnet. I mean, so many people you'd like to be able to share that with.
That's true. Ralph Earnhardt, I know, has got to be smiling. The gods have smiled down on us today. I mean, all of them. Like I said before, all the fans giving me, you know, this is your year. Hey, Ralph Earnhardt, Neil Bonnet, T. Wayne Robertson, this is all for you guys.
Hey, what do you do after this? Obviously, tomorrow's the big ceremony, but are you going to be appearing on some shows if the calls already flooded in?
If they book us, we may go on Oprah or whatever, but, you know, I don't know. We're going to go do Daytona, USA tomorrow and put the car in the museum. Tuesday, I'm going to L.A. and do a new movie. I'm in a movie. Yeah, Gordon's
You're
not.
in a movie.
Whatever. You want to be in the movie?
Yeah, I'll go with you.
Anyway, we're gonna have a big week. I'm sure we're gonna get on Lino. Who knows? I'm gonna go to California. I'll just call him up.
That sounds like a lot of fun. But you got a race to get ready for too.
Rockingham. That's Friday. I'll be there.
Just gonna show up Friday. You got some other things to do in advance of it.
Going to California, shoot a movie, be on Lino, do this, do that.
What's the movie?
Oh, it's a secret.
But you're already thinking about Rockingham. You mentioned to me just a moment ago that you're going to go to Rockingham and win #2 of the season.
That's right. We got a good combination for there. The spoiler change, I think, is going to work for us and work with us. And I think the Taurus is going to be strong there. I really do. So we're going to work that out for us. We'll go out and win it. But the Daytona 500, guys, dang.
Hey, Dale, this morning we said the 3 things you wanted before your career was over was a Daytona 500, which you got today, an 8th championship, and the most popular driver award. And I said if you won the 500 today, you're well on your way to #2 and #3. How about it?
That's true. And the championship, I tell you, the 50th anniversary of NASCAR. Who would have believed I could win the Daytona 500 on the 50th anniversary of Daytona? Our 20th year here. We're going on win that championship. Heck with a popular driver. I'd rather be a champion.
Well, he's certainly a popular choice all around America. Dale, appreciate you very much for coming on, spending time with us.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Let's go to Rockingham.
Dale Earnhardt leaves behind his wife and 4 children ranging in age from 12 to 31, including his sons, drivers, Kerry and Dale Jr., who runs #8 in honor of his grandfather. Dale Earnhardt, husband, father, champion, dead at 49.
Kobe, Bubala, do you comprehend the power you have?
I'm Dan Patrick here in the ESPN Radio Chopper. Radio marketing is all about promotions. That's why we're blanketing the country with these ESPN radio bats. We've got live sporting events. We've got call-in shows. You can log on to ESPNradio.com and find out more about stations in your area. Or you can listen online. So tune in. And if you happen to catch one of these bats, enjoy!
Monday at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, RPM tonight, a 1-hour special on the life and times of Dale Earnhardt. That's on ESPN2. ESPN Classic next Saturday, 12 hours of Earnhardt. That's next Saturday. I'm Whit Watson. Thank you for joining us. To Dale Earnhardt's friends and family, peace.